Have you ever felt like your identity is tied to how well you can meet the needs of others? That your worth is measured by the approval you receive, the smiles you bring to other faces, or the ease with which you smooth over tension? If so, you're not alone. In fact, you might be living with what Dr. Harriet Breaker calls the disease to please. This audiobook is your guide to breaking free from the psychological chains of people-pleasing. It's about learning to value your own needs, say no without guilt, and reclaim control over your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being. Today, we embark on a journey to heal the compulsive drive to gain approval at all costs, and we start with understanding where this need comes from. People-pleasing is not just a personality quirk. It's often rooted in early experiences, shaped by family dynamics, societal expectations, and even our own fear of rejection. Picture yourself as a child, learning that being nice earned you praise while expressing anger or disappointment might have brought criticism. Over time, the lesson became ingrained. If I make everyone else happy, they'll love me. And if they love me, I'll be safe. But here's the thing. The strategy that may have protected you in childhood often backfires in adulthood. As you grow, the endless pursuit of pleasing others doesn't lead to love or safety. Instead, it leads to exhaustion, resentment, and a sense of losing yourself in the demands of others. So let's begin with a question. How often do you say yes when your heart screams no? Maybe it's agreeing to take on extra work when your plate is already full. Or perhaps it's lending a hand to a friend who consistently takes without giving back. Or maybe it's smaller, everyday things, like apologizing for things that aren't your fault, or avoiding conflict to keep the peace. These moments may seem insignificant on their own, but over time, they add up. They drain your energy and erode your self-esteem, leaving you feeling like a passenger in your own life. The disease to please operates on 3 levels: distorted thinking, compulsive habits, and avoidance of negative emotions. These elements form a triangle where each side fuels the others. Distorted thinking convinces you that your worth depends on making others happy. Compulsive habits drive you to act on that belief, often at great personal cost. And the avoidance of negative emotions keeps you locked in a cycle of people-pleasing because the thought of conflict or disapproval feels unbearable. Let's explore this triangle further. First, distorted thinking. If you're a people-pleaser, you might believe things like, I have to make everyone happy or they won't like me. Or, if I say no, I'm being selfish. These thoughts are like a virus, infecting your self-esteem and leading you to overextend yourself. But here's the truth. Your value doesn't come from how much you do for others. You are inherently worthy, just as you are. Next, let's talk about compulsive habits. These are the behaviors that people-pleasers turn to automatically. Saying yes without thinking, taking on responsibilities that aren't yours, putting others' needs above your own, so often that you forget what your own needs even are. These habits are deeply ingrained, but they're not unchangeable. With awareness and effort, you can learn to pause, reflect, and make choices that honor your own boundaries. Finally, there's the avoidance of negative emotions. People-pleasers often go to great lengths to avoid conflict, rejection, or disappointment. The idea of someone being upset with you feels unbearable, so you'll do whatever it takes to prevent it, even if that means sacrificing your own needs. But avoiding these emotions doesn't make them go away. In fact, it often makes them worse. Suppressed anger can turn into resentment. Repressed guilt can lead to anxiety. And over time, this emotional suppression takes a toll on your mental and physical health. The good news is, change is possible. But it begins with small, intentional steps. One of the most powerful steps you can take is learning to say no. For many people pleasers, the word no feels loaded with guilt and fear. But saying no isn't about being mean or selfish. It's about being honest and respectful to yourself and to others. When you say no to something that drains you, you're saying yes to something more important, your own well-being. Let's try this together. Imagine someone asks you for a favor, but you're already overwhelmed. Instead of automatically saying yes, take a breath. Ask yourself, do I have the time and energy for this? Is this something I truly want to do? If the answer is no, practice saying it kindly but firmly. For example, you might say, I'm sorry, but I can't take that on right now. Or, I wish I could help, but I have too much on my plate at the moment. At first, saying no might feel uncomfortable. You might worry about how others will react. But with practice, it gets easier. And as you set boundaries, you'll notice a powerful shift. You'll start to feel more in control of your life. You'll have more energy for the things that truly matter to you. And you'll begin to see that your worth doesn't depend on how much you do for others. Another key to breaking free from the disease to please is challenging your distorted thinking. Remember those thoughts we talked about earlier, the ones that say, I have to make everyone happy. Or, if I say no, I'm being selfish. Start questioning those thoughts. Ask yourself, is this really true? What evidence do I have to support this belief? Often you'll find that these thoughts are based on assumptions rather than facts. For example, let's say you're afraid that saying no will make someone angry with you. Ask yourself, has this actually happened before? And if it has, was the reaction as bad as you feared? In many cases, you'll find that the fear of disapproval is much worse than the reality. People are often more understanding than we give them credit for. And even if someone does get upset, it's not the end of the world. Their feelings are their responsibility, not yours. This brings us to an important truth. You are not responsible for other people's happiness. Read that again. Your job is not to fix, rescue, or please everyone around you. Your job is to take care of yourself, to live in alignment with your values, and to show up authentically in your relationships. When you do this, you're not only helping yourself, you're also setting a powerful example for others. You're showing them what it looks like to have healthy boundaries and to honor your own needs. As we move forward, we'll explore practical strategies for breaking free from the disease to please. We'll dive into techniques for setting boundaries, managing guilt, and navigating conflict with confidence. We'll also explore ways to reconnect with your own needs, passions, and priorities so that you can live a life that feels authentic and fulfilling. Remember, change doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey, and it's okay to take it one step at a time. Be patient with yourself and celebrate every small victory along the way. The fact that you're here, listening to this, is a victory in itself. It's a sign that you're ready to take control of your life and break free from the chains of people-pleasing. So, as we continue, keep this in mind. You are worthy. You are enough. And you deserve a life that reflects your true self, not just the expectations of others. Let's take this journey together, one step at a time, toward a healthier, happier, and more authentic you. Now let's deepen our exploration by discussing the concept of self-worth. For many people pleasers, the idea of self-worth is tied entirely to external validation. When others praise you, appreciate you, or rely on you, you feel valuable. But when criticism arises or approval wavers, your sense of self crumbles. This is a fragile foundation to build your life upon, and it leaves you at the mercy of others' opinions. True self-worth, however, comes from within. It's the unshakable belief that you are valuable, not because of what you do for others, but because of who you are. Cultivating self-worth requires a shift in mindset. Begin by challenging the belief that your value is contingent on others' approval. Practice affirming your inherent worth by acknowledging your strengths, talents, and unique qualities. Write them down. Reflect on your achievements, big and small. Recognize the ways in which you contribute to the world simply by being yourself. This exercise might feel awkward at first, but over time, it's a powerful way to rewire your thinking. Another important step in reclaiming self-worth is learning to validate yourself. Instead of seeking external praise, give yourself the validation you crave. When you complete a task, acknowledge your effort and hard work. When you navigate a challenging situation, celebrate your resilience. By becoming your own source of validation, you'll feel less dependent on the opinions of others. Now let's talk about guilt. Guilt is one of the most common emotions that people-pleasers experience. It's the feeling that arises when you prioritize your own needs or set a boundary. Guilt whispers, "You're being selfish. You're letting others down." But here's the truth. Guilt is not a reliable indicator of right and wrong. Often, it's a learned response, a residue from past experiences or societal conditioning. Just because you feel guilty doesn't mean you've done something wrong. To manage guilt, start by recognizing it for what it is: a feeling, not a fact. When guilt arises, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, have I truly done something wrong? Or am I feeling guilty because I've been conditioned to put others first? If it's the latter, remind yourself that it's okay to prioritize your own needs. You can't pour from an empty cup, and taking care of yourself is not selfish. It's essential. Next, let's address conflict. For many people-pleasers, conflict is a source of immense anxiety. The thought of disagreement or confrontation feels overwhelming, so they avoid it at all costs. But avoiding conflict doesn't solve problems. It often makes them worse. Suppressed frustrations can build over time, leading to resentment and emotional distance in relationships. Learning to navigate conflict is a crucial skill for breaking free from the disease to please. Start by reframing your perspective on conflict. Instead of seeing it as something to fear, view it as an opportunity for growth and understanding. Conflict is a natural part of relationships, and when handled constructively, it can strengthen your connections with others. Practice approaching conflict with curiosity and empathy. Focus on expressing your feelings and needs without blaming or criticizing the other person. For example, instead of saying, "You never listen to me," try, "I feel unheard when we talk, and I'd like us to work on improving our communication." Another valuable skill in navigating conflict is active listening. Often, during disagreements, we're so focused on defending our own perspective that we fail to truly hear the other person. Active listening involves giving your full attention, acknowledging the other person's feelings, and seeking to understand their point of view. Phrases like, "I hear what you're saying," or "That sounds really important to you," can go a long way in diffusing tension and fostering mutual respect. Now, let's dive into the concept of boundaries. Boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy relationships and protecting your well-being. They define what is acceptable and unacceptable in your interactions with others. For people-pleasers, setting boundaries can feel daunting because it often requires saying no or asserting your needs. But boundaries are not about pushing others away. They're about creating a foundation of respect and understanding. To set boundaries effectively, start by identifying your limits. Reflect on the areas of your life where you feel overwhelmed, resentful, or drained. These feelings are often indicators that a boundary has been crossed. Once you've identified your limits, communicate them clearly and assertively. Use I statements to express your needs without placing blame. For example, I need some quiet time in the evenings to recharge, or I'm not able to take on additional responsibilities right now. It's important to remember that setting boundaries is a process, not a one-time event. It's normal to feel uncomfortable or face resistance, especially if others are used to you always saying yes. But over time, as you consistently reinforce your boundaries, others will come to respect them. And most importantly, you'll start to feel more empowered and in control of your life. Let's shift our focus to self-compassion. People pleasers are often their own harshest critics, holding themselves to impossibly high standards and berating themselves for perceived shortcomings. Self-compassion is the antidote to this inner critic. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a dear friend. Practicing self-compassion begins with mindfulness. Pay attention to the way you talk to yourself, especially in moments of struggle or failure. If you notice self-critical thoughts, pause and reframe them with kindness. Instead of saying, "I can't believe I messed that up," try, "I'm human and it's okay to make mistakes. What can I learn from this?" Another aspect of self-compassion is recognizing that you're not alone in your struggles. Everyone faces challenges, and feeling inadequate at times is part of the shared human experience. Remind yourself that it's okay to ask for help, to lean on others, and to give yourself grace as you navigate life's ups and downs. As we continue, remember that healing from the disease to please is a journey. It's about letting go of perfectionism, embracing your authentic self, and finding balance in your relationships. It's about learning to give and receive love in a way that feels healthy and fulfilling. And most of all, it's about reclaiming your power and living a life that aligns with your true values and desires. Together, we've explored the foundations of people-pleasing and the steps to overcome it. But this journey is ongoing, and each day brings new opportunities to grow, learn, and practice. So take a deep breath, give yourself permission to prioritize your well-being, and trust that you have the strength to create the life you deserve. Let's keep moving forward, one step at a time, toward a future filled with authenticity, joy, and self-acceptance.